Good everyone. I hope you guys have an amazing day. Welcome to another self-hosted Transhumanism podcast. I am Mr. Cohen. I'm the founder of World Transhumanism Forum, and today we are exploring a concept which I coined that represent the next frontier of human evolution, a world where your biology is not fixed, but you can program it. Many of you heard about vibe coding, right? It's a technology which helps you talk to software in a natural language processing, or I would say in a natural English, and you will get the desired output. So behind the scene, the large language model decipher your um, basic English or basic Hebrew or Spanish or Chinese and use the natural language processing to decipher it and to give you the desired output. That's the simplest form I can drill down to explain what a vibe coding means. So I would like to discuss something called vibe genomeering, which takes this idea further. It's just not about sensing or nudging your energy. It's about programming your body's excuse me biology in real time. Your cells, tissues, and even neural systems become a canvas for intentional change. Let's do a thought experiment. Picture yourself sitting in a park wearing advanced neural and biometric implants. These implants are monitoring signals, your neural activity, micromuscle movements, heartbeat patterns, hormone fluctuation, even vibration at the cellular level. You simply say, can you please generate two additional fingers for me temporarily? The system interrupts your request using AI driven natural language processing. It scans your body to assess whether your current biological architecture allows such a modification. If feasible, programmable genetic circuits are activated, proteins are synthesized, tissue scaffolds tissue scaffolds are formed using engineered cells or biodegradable biomaterials. Within hours, two fully functional fingers emerge, seamlessly integrated with nerves, blood vessels, and your existing hand movements. And when no longer required, the process reverses safely and precisely, leaving your original anatomy intact. Some might call it as dystopian, right? To me, as a transhumanist, it represents a new industrial era, a time where humans engineer themselves as a part of daily life. Just as aeroplanes and smartphones were inconceivable in the 11th century, today programmable biology seems impossible. But that does not mean it's not coming. Now, let's talk about vibe genomics in a bit more detail and why it matters. So, first of all, it fundamentally changes human capability. We are no longer limited by what evolution gave us. Imagine temporarily enhancing strength, vision, or cognitive capacity for a specific task. Need a superhuman focus for an exam? Sweet. Temporarily enhanced motor control for surgery of athletics? Sweet. You got it. Vibe genomics allows this adaptations on demand. Second, it promises a medical revolution. Chronic illnesses, missing limbs, or organ failures could be treated not with drugs, but by programming your own cells. Your biology becomes a platform for restoration and augmentation. Third, it will transform society, identity, ability, and even equity will be challenged. If humans can modify themselves at will, who gets access? How do we define fairness and human rights in the world of programmable biology? Let's look at a very simple scenario. Consider an astronaut on Mars, right? Let's take an example of it. Low oxygen level, extreme UV radiation, and harsh temperature would be fatal to humans today, right? With VibeGenomeering, temporary psychological adaptation could allow them to survive and thrive, enhance lung capacity, UV resistant skin, radiation absorbing cells. This could all be engineered temporarily for the duration of the mission. Or you could also imagine artists, musicians, or performers who can temporarily modify neural circuits to enhance creativity. Um, so let's take singers, for example, they could expand their vocal range for performance. The capability to program the body opens infinite possibilities, but also profound questions. Now, let's look at the second phase of it, right? So we spoke about vibe genomics, why it matters. Now, you could ask how vibe genomics could work. So let's explore the mechanics behind vibe genomics in a way that could be feasible in the coming decades. First, let's talk about neural and biometric interfaces. These are not just sensors. They are extension of your nervous system. They detect your neural signals, subtle muscle microtensions, heart rhythms, hormonal change, even vibration at the cellular level. We discussed about this briefly before. So your intention, spoken thoughts, or sense are read by the systems at command. Now comes something important. That's the AI-driven decision making. Now, obviously, artificial intelligence is a big thing today. So now using AI, we could evaluate entire biological system. It predicts outcomes. It checks safety margins. It identifies exact pathways for cellular modification. For example, if you request an extra finger, the AI checks whether your bone structure, nerve density, and uh, vascular network can accommodate it safely. It simulates the integration to prevent immune reaction or unintended tissue growth. Then we have synthetic biology, right? So we could have synthetic biology factories. Now, that may sound dystopian, but hear me out. Imagine miniature intelligent biolabs integrated into wearables or local facilities that can synthesize proteins, tissues, scaffolds, and guide stem cells to form functional structures. Think about that for a second, what I just said. Now, they receive instruction from your neural interface and AI system, constructing tissues at the cellular level. Every nerve, vein, ligament is placed to integrate seamlessly with your body. Now, to me, as a transhumanist, this is an interesting frontier to look forward to. Synthetic biology is something I'm very passionate about, right? It can change the dynamics of what it means to be human. We could take our primitive carbon matter based architecture, which is capable of surviving on planet Earth to a certain extent. We could enhance that to thrive in any ecosystem. Finally, let's talk about dynamic integration and reversal, which is an important topic. So, unlike traditional medical intervention, vibe genomics is temporary, adaptable, and reversible. That's the vision, right? You could reverse if you're not interested in the change. Once you're extra fingers, because I'll talk about finger example because that's more relatable example. Extra fingers, let's say you decide to have extra fingers, and once you realize I don't need them, um, so the system safely degrades the tissues, reabsorb cellular material, and restore your actual anatomy. Your body becomes a living, updatable platform. Now, let's talk about an example, right? It's very important to visualize what I just said. Imagine a climber scaling a dangerous cliff. Yeah, if you're interested into tracking and climbing, suddenly a fracture occurs, right? A vibe genomics could detect stress on the bones, signals rapid tissue growth, and temporarily enhances body density to prevent breakage. Once the climb is complete, the system reverses the enhancement, leaving the climber's body intact. Or let's take another example, right? I'm not sure if you have ever played a violin. So, a violinist preparing for a performance. Think about a scenario, right? You have to go and perform. It's a huge crowd. You're nervous. So, what happens using this vibe genomics? The neural circuit, fine motor control, and finger dexterity are temporarily enhanced. Now, after the performance, the enhancement dissolves safely, the body becomes a tool and canvas for skill, performance, and survival. Now, you may ask, what if I want this change to be permanent? You could, but the whole point of vibe genomics is if you like a change, you can keep it. If you do not like a change, you can reverse it, right? It's just to give that flexible option. Now, let's look at the most important part. See, I understand vibe genomics is a great concept. It might be the next greatest technological innovation in the field of computer science, genetics, biochemistry, physics, material engineering, all combined, right? So that's why I call this as a field of transhumanism. But unlike but like every cutting edge stuff, right? There are some challenges and there are some risks. So let's talk about some ethical, biological, and societal changes. The challenge which comes from society. Ethical changes, right? Now, this is very important. So we should be asking a very important question. Who has access to this enhancement? If only the wealthy or powerful can modify their biology, then surely you would assume there will be a massive inequality in our society. Consent is another question. Even temporary modification could be misused by employers, your government agencies, or even, malicious actors. Um, Now, there's another thing we should be considering as a risk is the biological risk. So the human body is an extraordinary complex. Human body is very complex, right? Small errors and small issues or errors in programming could trigger immune rejection, abnormal tissue formation, or cancer. Now, temporarily enhancing muscle mass, for example, requires precise regulation of protein synthesis, vascularization, and nerve integration. Any misstep could be catastrophic. Safety system must be robust, right? Now let's talk about the psychological impact, right? Identity may become fluid when a body can change at will. How do we define self? Now, obviously, for many, the concept of self is important. So if your identity becomes fluid, how do you define a self? How do relationships function when individuals around us can adapt their biology? Will trust and social norms survive in a world where physical form is mutable. Now, you could argue that social norms are human invented, so it could be changed based on the requirement. I agree with that, and I'm not a big fan of social norms. These are human engineered stuff. The same goes with the religion. It's human invented stuff. Um, and we sugarcoat stuff to make believe, hey, comes from here, this came from there. No one has proof of anything, right? So we invented stuff to understand life, understand the universe, when science was not very clever back in the days. Now, let's talk about another uh, risk, that's a governance risk. VibeGenomeering cannot be regulated by a single nation. It will require a global framework, similar to nuclear or AI regulation. Standards must define who can access modification, how safety is ensured, and how misuse is prevented. Now, let's look at some of the real world scenarios, right? Soldiers with temporary regenerative capabilities after missions, these um, capabilities reverse. What if someone bypassed the reversal? Appearance modification for social influence, for instance, changing height, eye color, or body shape to manipulate interaction. These have consequences beyond the individuals. Now, medical intervention could fall under critical condition, could fail under critical condition. Backup systems, error correction, and fail-safes must be in place. Ultimately, vibe engineering challenges not just our biology, but ethics, psychology, and society. Preparing for it requires a foresight, discussion, and careful planning. It's not a science fiction. It is approaching reality, and the choices we make now will shape its impact. Now, let's look at a very important concept, excuse me, which is very close to my heart. That's a philosophical perspective. Why genomics is a philosophical as well as a technological shift. At its core, it's about human self mastery. Are we defined by immutable biology or by our ability to intentionally shape ourselves? Just as airplanes and smartphones were unimaginable uh, centuries before they existed, programmable biology seems impossible today. But synthetic biology, AI guided genomics, tissue engineering, and neural interfaces are advancing rapidly. Within decades, the boundary between neural and engineered humans may dissolve. Now, if you could upgrade yourself temporarily, what would you choose? Let me ask you this. Would you choose strength, intelligence, creativity, emotional resilience? Would you trust AI to implement it safely? These are questions we must ask ourselves before the technology arrives. So you see, some may call genomic dystopian. I call it as the dawn of new industrial era, a time when humans become engineerable, programmable, and conscious architects of our own evolution. The technology exists today in embryonic forms. The future is approaching not as a dream, but as an inevitable evolution of humanity. So I invite you to join the World Transhumanism Forum. Please engage in discussion, explore ethical frameworks, and imagine the implication of a world where humans are programmable. Vibe genomics is not a science fiction. It is the next frontier of human potential. How will you prepare for it? How will you participate in shaping it? Think about it. That's pretty much I wanted to cover in this episode. Hope you enjoyed it and hope you find it fascinating. And my apologies to those who find it very challenging. I do understand some may call it as dystopian, as as I always say. Um, but please think about it. And if you are excited with what's coming, please share this video with your friends or family who may find transhumanism interesting. That being said, I hope you guys have an amazing day.